Merlin Video Training Course, Session 6, Permissions. In Session 5 we looked at how Merlin is comprised of places which contain lists and pages. In this session we're going to be looking at how you assign permissions to users to see places and their content. You'll recall that we also spoke about how Merlin places can have sub-places, or to give them their correct name, child places. Merlin places that exist within your establishment will have this hierarchical parent-child place structure, with places being sub-places of others. It is important to understand the relationship between places, because where you create a place in the hierarchy will determine who can see it. Unlike other websites, Merlin's structure has more to do with permissions than it does with navigation. In fact, it's not correct to call Merlin places web pages. They're more like a container for web applications, pages and widgets. The places are a collection of content, and we can give Merlin users access to these places. In fact, Merlin will also allow us to manage permissions not only at a place level, but also at content and even document level, meaning that if we wanted to, we could only allow certain place members to take part in a discussion, or to have permissions to edit a document. However, more of that later. To begin with, let's keep things simple and just talk about giving people access to places. We can give a user direct access to a place, meaning they can see its content and interact with it. We do this by finding the user in Merlin and putting a tick against their name. However, if we had to do that for everyone we wanted to see our place, that would be a lot of work. So we use groups to help make the management of permissions easier. We might have a group of users we call teachers or governors, and we give the group permission to see the site. These groups can be taken from the groups you have set up in your school's MIS system. When we assign permissions to a group, any members of that group benefit from those permissions. If a Merlin R place has a sub-place or child place, it can inherit the permissions of its parent place. For example, you might have a staff room place and create another place below it called CPD. If you inherit permissions, then all those that have access to the staff room have the same access rights to the CPD place. Any changes to the permission in the parent place are inherited by the child or sub-place. So if I was to deny this chap permission to the staff room, he automatically doesn't get to see the CPD place. If the membership of a group changes, maybe a member of staff leaves and another one joins, they will get to see both places because the permission to see the places was granted to the group and not to the individual. This is why using groups is so useful and powerful. If, however, I just wanted to give this member of staff permission to see just the CPD place, I would be modifying the inherited permission, which means the link is broken and the CPD place will no longer inherit changes made to the staff room permissions. All the people and groups that could see the CPD place before can still see it, but any changes made to the membership of the staff room won't be inherited by the CPD place. So if I add a new member of staff to the staff room, she cannot see the CPD place. However, like before, changes to the membership of groups is unaffected because permission was granted to the groups and not to individuals, and this was granted before the inherited link was broken. There are three basic levels of permission in Merlin: read, contribute and full control. If you grant somebody read access to your place, it is like they can view your place behind glass. They can see it, but they can't touch. They can read content, they can watch videos, listen to audio, but they can't take place in discussions, complete a survey or upload a document. This is the same type of access you grant when you make a Merlin place public, meaning non-Merlin users can see it. We'll look at public settings later. Contribute access allows users to interact with your place. They can upload documents, add events to calendars, take part in discussions and so on. This is the main level of access you'll give to users. Full control means that the user has the same level of control over the place as the person who created it. Not only can they do all the things they could do with contribute rights, but they can also delete content, add content, and create child or subplaces underneath this place. You would give full control to a user who you wanted to share the administration of the place with you. So, now we've looked at the theory, let's look at all this in practice. Firstly, remember when we looked at creating a new Merlin R place, we had this form to complete? Well, at the bottom is this important tick box. This is where you decide if this new sub or child place you're creating will inherit permissions from its parent's place. If you don't tick the box, only the establishment's administrators and you can see this place. You can always come back later when your site is ready for others to look at. To assign permissions to a place, you need to go into Manage Place. Remember, you can only do this if you have full control of a place. Then choose Manage Membership and Permissions, and this will take you through to the Membership and Permission Manager. Firstly, notice this box. By default it should be showing you your establishment, but depending on your role you might be able to see other establishments, which is useful when we use Merlin to collaborate with other establishments. More of that in a later session. For now, just check that you have the correct establishment selected. The main part of the screen is a tabbed box with the tabs Groups and Users. We'll start off by looking at the various groups we have set up in our establishment. Some of these groups may have been set up in your school's MIS system, such as classes or tutor groups. To give a group permission to see this place, simply put a tick in the appropriate column against that group. So here we could give all the pupils in this establishment contribute rights. Clicking the box unchecks it. You only need one tick in a box for a group or user. So here teaching assistant staff and teaching staff have full control, which supersedes contribute rights, meaning we don't need to tick contribute to allow them to take part in discussions or upload material, for example. We can also see which groups currently have access to this place, which is a useful way of checking current permission levels. The Users tab allows us to assign permissions to specific users rather than groups of users. Users are listed according to which group they belong to. So if I want to give an individual pupil access to this site, I need to select the pupils group and then find that child on the list and tick the appropriate box. If the user entered an email in their My Profile area, they will receive an alert notifying them that they now have access to this place. If the inherited permissions box wasn't ticked earlier or the link has been severed, we can restore it by clicking here. This will overwrite any permissions that are different to the parent place. So we've looked at how to assign permissions to an R place, but we can also tailor permissions for individual content items. For example, you may want to give just some people contribute rights to a calendar, meaning that they can edit the content and everybody else can just view it because they only have read access. To do this, go to the Settings menu and select List Settings, which may be labelled differently according to which content tool you're editing. You can then see that we need to select permissions for this list, and this will then take us to the Membership and Permission Manager. Any changes we make here will apply to the content, in this case the calendar. We can do the same for individual items in a list, for example folders and documents in a document library. The drop-down menu for both folders and documents has a Manage Permission option, which again takes us to the Membership and Permissions Manager as before. Finally, let's quickly look at how you make a Merlin R place into a public website, meaning anyone can see it online and they don't need a Merlin logon. To do this, you need to be logged in using an admin account. Click on Manage Place and go into the Membership and Permissions Manager. At the bottom of the page is a new option, Public Access Settings. Clicking this gives us a number of options. Currently, the site is in Secure View, meaning you do need a Merlin login and password to see it. Clicking Secure plus Public View generates an additional URL for your place, and anyone following that URL will see a read-only version of your place, meaning they can see content but they can't interact with it. Changes might take a while to take effect. You can tell if a place is public by this message in the Place Owner area. If you wanted to take away public access, you can simply go back to the options and select Secure View Only. Now, the URL of the public Merlin R place isn't very user-friendly, so it's best to use this URL as a hyperlink in text or graphics on other web pages. It isn't a website address people are going to type directly into their web browser's address bar. However, we can create a much more user-friendly web address. Simply highlight and copy this URL and then go to a special website set up by the Southwest Grid for Learning, gotourplace.com. Here we can shorten the URL in 3 steps. Firstly, paste the long URL into this box and click Continue. Next, you can choose whether your new URL starts with gotourplace.com or gotoourschool.com. The third step allows you to choose what comes after the .com/ part of the URL. If no one else has chosen your keyword, you then get your very own customized URL to use in communications and correspondence, making it easy for people to find your Merlin R place. Of course, you can also use this gotourplace.com service for other non-public Merlin sites. So in this session, we've looked at both the theory and practice of applying permissions to Merlin places. Please see the documentation associated with this course for more detailed guidance. Although Merlin has very comprehensive and highly customizable permission levels, we would advise that you keep things as simple as possible, making the management of places and their content as straightforward as you can.